This is Kevin with RunnerSpace.com, and I'm here with Greg Harger. We're at the U.S. Indoor Championships, and Greg Harger, head coach of the Indiana Invaders. Your team is web hosted by RunnerSpace.com, so it's nice to be here and catch up with you, especially since you have two athletes here yourself now in what you've called a revitalized program. So talk to me about the revitalization and how those guys are, and well, one guy, one girl, how they're doing.
Yeah, well, it's been, we basically have taken 10 years of experiences and lessons learned, both sport-wise, in our local community and with our sport, and try to wipe the board clean here just over the last, really what's amounted to the last 24 months, kind of not recruiting, letting numbers go down, and finding assets in our community that are business skills and some marketing skills and those kinds of things, and starting over from scratch, really, with those lessons learned. So we're really excited about that, and we really haven't recruited any athletes. We've just had athletes come to us, and so everybody's really young and inexperienced, and we'll be able to put up and have information public here within the next 5 to 6 weeks of what we have available for support and what our focus is going forward. So we're excited about that part of it. The two athletes that are here are kind of stereotypical of our history of underdogs and long shots and that kind of stuff, with James O'Brien, Jimmy from Ohio Northern, has just rolled in, and he had a great educational experience his first time out here yesterday. His finish time didn't look like much, but he was out faster than he's ever been out, and was in it at 4, and he was in position all the way through 600 meters, and really just training progression for him to carry over. And he shared something walking back to the hotel that's a good sign from a coach's perspective. He said, my freshman year I finished dead last at Nationals as he went into Ohio Northern, but the next year he won the national championships. So he's, I've been here before.
A repeat of that would be impressive.
That would be. That's as he now understands. Everybody's good at this level, and everybody's at another level with performances and abilities. But nonetheless, he took it real positive.
Good,
and that's always encouraging.
Well, and it sounds like he understands the process.
Yeah, exactly. And then Mason Cathy's was with us last year, the entire training cycle. And she went to the University of Florida. Never qualified for NCAAs in anything. Didn't compete for 4 years. Was still running. Stayed in shape, but realized that she wanted to come back and find out what she could do. And last year she ran PRs in the 8, the 15, the mile. Ended up 14th on the U.S. in the steeple, which is her best event. And immediately with that result, it's like, okay, 2012, you can reasonably be in the final.
Right.
So let's not leave any speed on the table or in the closet someplace. So this year and next year, we want to do some things with her 800, 1500 meter abilities while she progresses with the steeple.
Okay. So she's in her mid-20s then?
Yes. Yeah.
So.
And the maturity of just life.
Right.
4 years out working. Yep. She did some coaching collegiately. I think she was a year at Duke and a year at Central Florida, if I'm remembering things correctly. And so she's been on both sides of the coach-athlete fence, and that helps a lot. Makes it a lot easier in terms of working with her and those types of things. And she's already, we're not training for indoor for either one of them. We're training for outdoor, and she qualified here in the mile with early in the indoor season. It's like, okay, let's tweak things a little bit here. And we didn't go back and run another one because she was in, and her fitness is certainly a lot better than her qualifying mark. But your first time in a different event at Nationals, it'd be a great follow-up. She was a deer in the headlights, and she knows it from last year at U.S. Nationals, first time in the steeple. She didn't know she was in the section that had the barrier inadvertently too high.
Oh,
for the entry.
That. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Mason didn't know the barrier was too high, ever.
Okay. Wow.
Not until she was told afterwards. That's how. But that's behind her now, and she's more comfortable here this time. So we'll just look to see how she handles that part of it today.
Now, there was a time when the Indiana Invaders were really maybe the only full track team post-collegiate in America.
Absolutely.
You talk about your numbers coming down. What numbers are you coming down from and going to?
Yeah. We had, it was men and women, all events, and we were looking to support anybody and everybody. And pretty aggressive, naive going into it. Burned out more volunteers probably than any other club in the country. We had 16 athletes at the trials in 2000. We had 16 athletes in 2004. and by then just about everybody was burned out from the process of making those things happen post-collegiately for developmental program. When you're working with developmental athletes, there's not a lot of cash flow there. So
right.
It's a chicken or egg dilemma, and we were using smoke and mirrors to deal with it. And we learned a ton. And I really feel like we've learned a lot. And so now going forward, I felt like our results prove that that's a viable model if you have some source of funding to operate.
Were you a Nike-sponsored program at some point?
Yeah, we've had a relationship there when we first started the club, on and off in different forms,
okay.
With Nike from the very beginning. Gosh, one of the original employees, Jeff Hollister, kind of emptied a corner of a warehouse the first year, I think, for us. Like, I want to help you guys out. I like what you're doing.
Nice.
And that was a big help for us. Mm-hmm. And then it was kind of bits and pieces up and down throughout, the course of really 10 years. And now for us, the next part, you're having call timeout, wipe the chalkboard clean, both athletically. It's also been business-wise, and I didn't even know what a business plan was, and I'm not sure I still understand them, but I know now we've got some people with experience. One in fundraising for not-for-profits from the Indianapolis community who's was able to speak English to me on that topic,
right?
And that was huge.
Okay.
And so he's helping guide us with that. We had our first formal meeting last week after we'd been working on things behind the scenes, so I could answer their questions first. And we have a young woman who's involved in marketing with a firm there in Indianapolis, and so the two of them will be a huge help,
right?
Along with some others. So we're excited about that, and the focus will be, while I'm still committed long term, if you can't make something work, you won't grow it to the rest of the elements. So we're looking at a middle distance emphasis, 12 men, 12 women, period. Being disciplined, one of the things we learned is we didn't have enough discipline. Saying no, staying focused, staying within our coaching resources and within our volunteer resources. And if that's successful, then we could add then other complementary areas.
Okay. Now, are there requirements then for these athletes to stay on the team?
Yeah, both requirements to stay on them. One of the things that we learned that I really appreciate is the community-based part and the developmental part of it. So if we are fortunate enough to stumble into more support and success, we're dedicating a third of those roster spots always to athletes that fit our history, and then a third of support that's in the middle, and then a third of support from our community that would be performance-based. That if you're a contract athlete, there's going to be additional significant support to stay there. We had 9 athletes go from being part of the club to individual contracts with shoe companies while we were there in those 10 years. And none of them performed better after they left our community, left the roster, but left the community, except for one, and that was the one person who stayed in Indianapolis. And it doesn't, your grandmother tell you, it doesn't make, you don't change something that's not broken. You don't change where you're sleeping, you don't change who you're working with, you don't change where you're living. That's not a wise idea, unless you're in a crisis scenario. So that was one of the lessons that we learned. But we'll make sure that we keep our feet grounded by keeping athletes like a James O'Brien or like a Mason Cathey, that we keep those spots on our roster. It'll be important to us, I think, just given our heritage. And then it allows us to do a good job with a small number of athletes that emerge on the higher level, too.
Well, it's great to see you guys refocus. I know, Indiana Invaders has been a huge part of the recent history of post-collegiate running in America. You can find out more information, of course, at runnerspace.com/Indiana Invaders, your official site.
Absolutely. And right after Nationals, our new volunteers are going to teach me how to use our Twitter and Facebook and those other elements too. One of the things we know we need to do is communicate.
Yeah.
And being hosted there in the runner space community, and then kind of using the Facebook as a social networking and Twitter for whatever that is yet. I'll figure that out. The types of abilities to communicate. We're excited about it.
Yeah.
Small numbers and focused, and we'll have some fun. So we'll be. My apologies in advance to anybody we annoy with regular media releases and updates and things like that.
Fair enough.
Our deadline's the Sea Ray Relays. That's the first place we'll show up outdoors with a men's DMR and a couple other individual events.
Yeah.
And by then, we hope to be doing the things that everybody says we should do.
All right.
We'll take a shot at it.
Well, I look forward to see how your year progresses. And
Thanks.
Thanks for taking the time, Greg.
We're looking forward to it. Thank you very much.